Hey, I'm Zsolt, and welcome back to the Sketch Your Mind conference recordings. This is the third session out of 16 that I'll be sharing here on my channel. If you're new to the series, you'll find all the resources in the description below, including the big Excalibur whiteboard where I'm collecting notes and highlights from every session. I keep adding to it as participants share their insights, so check back from time to time. Today's talk is from Dave Gray, founder of XPLANE and author of Gamestorming, The Connected Company, and Liminal Thinking. Dave describes himself as a possibilitarian, someone who sees potential everywhere and helps others bring it to life. And honestly, that's exactly what he did for this conference. Dave's generosity in helping make connections with potential presenters was instrumental in making it happen. In this session, he shares how gamestorming can transform meetings from energy-draining obligations into creative, engaging collaborations. 3 key takeaways stood out for me. First, Gamestorming is like a recipe book of structured activities that make invisible knowledge visible, bringing all those scattered ideas into shared view so teams can think together. Make sure you check out gamestorming.com for an inventory of recipes. Second, every session follows a 3-part arc: opening, exploring, and closing that helps group diverge and converge with focus and flow. And third, gamestorming works beautifully, in some cases even better, online. Instead of marathon workshops, you can now run short, energizing virtual sessions that spark ideas without the burnout. At the end of this video, you'll hear the original music I composed for Dave's session. If you'd like to support my work, you can get the conference album, join the next visual thinking workshop, pick up my book, Sketch Your Mind, or try the Obsidian Excalibur plugin. I've put as much care and love into those as into this conference. All links are in the description below. Now, let's jump into Dave's session.
All right, well, let me just start by saying, while you figure that out, let me know where to drop the link, Zsolt. Gamestorming was originally published, a book originally published in 2010. It looks backwards on my screen. Is it forwards on your screen?
It looks forwards, and you can just drop the link in the chat, and I'm going to pin it to the top. So
okay.
if you drop it there, then I'll pin it.
I will do that in a second. And then, so we got a second edition, which is like, look at this. It's like twice as thick. So we got a lot of stuff that we added since the first edition. But one of the big things that's changed is online meetings. In 2010, when we first came out with this book, I had a lot of people saying, oh, how do we do this online? And I had to say, well, we're kind of prototyping it in the real world, and it's not really ready for online yet. But now I'm happy to say we do it online. And I even think that doing it online even is better than doing it in person in a lot of ways, which we can talk about. Go ahead, and if you have questions as I go, drop them in the chat. I'm going to drop us into a mural board here. But before I do that, I just want to share a little thing about joining a mural board. So you'll see a screen that looks like this. You should see it when you click the link. Don't try to create an account. Don't worry about logging into Mural. Just click this, enter as a visitor. You won't have any problems. You'll be able to do everything that you need to do. So here we go. I'm going to share a link and invite you to join me on Mural. There's another one called Miro, and this one's called Mural. And I learned from Zsolt about Excalibur, which is pretty awesome as well. So if you get on here, I believe in showing, not telling. So I'm going to drop us immediately into an exercise. And then in other words, I'll give you a little bit of we'll do a gamestorming experience. and then we can have some conversation about what I was doing and how it works. So the first thing we're going to do is called Project Pixels. And if you want to try this out, I tested it on iPad today. You should be able to just double click and drop a sticky on here. So if you do that, let me tell you, give me a second to tell you what I want you to do with your sticky. So everyone, you're probably here, you probably have some kind of creative work that you do, whether it's software development, product management, project management, maybe you're an entrepreneur. What I'd like you to do is drop a sticky that says, I want you to answer the question, what's the creative project in your life that you're most excited about right now, in the moment? And this is mine, Growing Creative Community. And then put in parentheses, put your name. So we have your project, your creative project, and your name. So this could be anything from I'm working on a course, I'm designing an app, I'm working on a product, I'm playing around with watercolor, I'm learning about watercolor, I'm just starting to do journaling, whatever that is, just go ahead and drop it on there. And maybe Zsolt, if you want to play a little music, we'll give people a couple minutes. Here we go. Here we go, right to work. Look at all this stuff. Now, some people are making really big sticky notes.
Stuck in the fog, the path ain't clear. Same old meeting, same old fear. Too much talking, not enough to show. Got big ideas, but nowhere to go. We need a system, an intelligent map to shake off the silence and close the gap. No more wasting time on assumptions we know. It's time for the rules to make the whole thing flow. From sketches to stickies, the vision is drawn. A playbook for insight from dusk until dawn. Yeah, the only way to win is to dive right in. It's Gamestorming 2.0. Baby, let the session begin. It's playful visual framework.
It's a big board, so if you're having trouble, I just put you over here. There we are.
Gamestorming 2.0. Break out the stickies and see what matters. We're talking.
All right, I think that's good. Cool. We can stop. All right, so you can keep typing as we talk here for a second, but what I want to say is this is like how I like to start any kind of meeting is given whatever the purpose is that you have for the meeting. I like to start by getting people to put their energy into the room in some way. And a lot of what Gamestorming is about is what can you do to structure a room in advance so things can happen more easily. I mean, I think 90% of a good meeting is usually thought through in advance. And that's what I try to do a little bit here today. You'll probably notice I also like to skirt on the edge of chaos, partly because I think at least the illusion of danger is essential to any kind of adventure. And I like to be creating an adventure when I can. So how does Gamestorming connect to all this visual note-taking and sketch your mind stuff? I think a common theme of all the topics that we're going to be talking about this week are about turning thoughts into things. And that's really, there's a tremendous power in that, whether you're doing it for yourself or in a group. Your thoughts are not really shareable. They're not really explicit until you actually make them into something, even if it's something as simple as a sticky note. And whether you're drawing pictures or making sticky notes, I think Gamestorming is a way to do this with a team or as a group. And what you're really doing is you're making the invisible visible. You're taking the things that usually just hang out in the air in a meeting, just people talking, and you're actually putting them into a place where you can actually do some work together. So it looks like we got a lot of interesting sticky notes. If you have a super big one, it would be great if you took it and like, watch what I'm doing here, grab the corner and make it a little bit smaller. Because the next thing I'm going to have you do is take your sticky and move it over here and put it in your time zone. And here we are. This is another example of making the invisible visible. We got 100 or 200 people in here. where is everybody? So this gives us a chance to see, okay, who's actually in my time zone? What time is it? You don't have to worry about putting it exactly where you live. Just get in the right column. And I don't know, some people live right on the line between time zones. I guess maybe people do. Okay, give people a minute to do that. Did you lose track of your sticky note? We got sticky notes all over the place here. Look at me, I'm trying to clean everything up. All right, this is interesting. Zsolt.
Yes, I can see, by the way, someone in New Zealand. So that's an early morning.
Oh, nice.
It is.
Nice.
Or, well, I think it's 7 a.m. I would guess that's around maybe 6 a.m. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. Also, by the way, I made a space over here on the left. If you have questions, you can drop questions on there as we go. You can also drop them in the whatchamacallit, the Ring chat if you want.
Well, the Ring Q&A is even better. So there's a Q&A tab. If you drop it there, I'm going to keep track of that and transfer it to a sticky note. But yeah,
I'm going to get rid of this then, and I'll have I'll Zsolt help manage the questions for me. Okay, so now I want to show you something really cool that you can do with Mural. Has everyone got their sticky note on the time zone? Anyone need a little more time? Raise your hand or drop a note in the chat if you need another minute, because I can't see the ring. I'm in Mural.
Yeah, there are no items, but I think we're good. I see that the large majority of the notes are in place.
All right, so now, so what have we done? We did this thing I call node generation. That's just getting all people's thoughts and ideas onto the board. Actually, I guess I should move mine over, put myself in the Pacific time zone over here. Is that Pacific? Whoop. Oh man, it's hidden underneath there. It's because I made it before I made the rest of the board. Oh well. I'm in Pacific, so now we're gonna do a thing that you can only do on Mural, but it's pretty cool. Watch this. First, I'm gonna duplicate everything. If you're in a sticky note, get out of it for a second. Oh, it's not. Let me do it. Hold on. Why is it? All right, I'll try grouping it. There we go. If you're, I'll ungroup it here. Okay, so check this out. You can watch it on the screen or watch what we're doing here. I'm going to ungroup. And Mural has this really cool AI thing that allows us to cluster by topic. And this is something we used to have to do this by hand. Isn't that? Well, check this out. Okay, so now we got all the sticky notes clustered by topic. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. I love it.
Yeah. So this is AI. So we've got visual thinking and design, workshops and courses, personal development, visual thinking, creative community. So what we've done here, I'm gonna stop here and say, okay, let's say this is a very simple Gamestorming workshop. All we did was start by getting people's projects, the things that they're excited about over here, project pixels. We put ourselves in a time zone. So now we know who we maybe want to connect with. So if you, let's say you live in the Pacific time zone, just for the sake of argument, because that's where I live, You can see the people who are in. Some of you didn't do your job. Whoever's working on private pilot license, you didn't put your name on there. Maybe you want to be anonymous. That's okay. But if you put yourself and your name on here, now you have a way to say, oh, these are all people in my time zone. These are all people I might want to work with or might want to connect with, maybe in the networking. And over here, we've got now all of our kind of interesting projects into clusters. So those of you who are working on neurodiversity, maybe you might want to be having an opportunity to connect with each other. If you're working on technology, now we have some connections. We've made some invisible stuff visible. I'm going to give them a thumbs up because I thought that worked pretty well. So I'll do one more thing. I like to always do feedback when I do a session like this. So even though the session's not over, I'm going to ask you to take a minute and just drop a couple of stickies in here. Something you liked about this little activity, anything, something you wish, something you wonder, or any like ahas that you just had doing this. And then I'm going to show you one more thing. I'll give you a minute to do that. I'm going to show you one more thing, and then we're going to go right into Q&A so we can have a conversation about actually what's going on here. So if you had any trouble with this, I do want to know that too. So that would be probably under I wish. I wish I had an iPad. I could have gone on here. I wish there was sound. I wish something was working. That's a great place to put that stuff. Any ahas. So I like this as a feedback mechanism. I used to use something different, but I came across this a few years ago. I wish, I wonder. That is this little simple thing is what I would call a game. In Gamestorming book, the book is kind of like a recipe book for activities of this type. So I liked, I wished, I wonder. I believe you will find in the book. You won't find time zones in the book. That's a game I just made up for today because I knew I knew Zsolt was collecting people from all over the world. So I was just kind of curious about that for myself. I don't think you'll find Project Pixels in there either. But essentially, there's enough recipes in the Gamestorming book that I think you'll find it quite interesting. Not only that, there's also a website. If you go here and you double click on this little hand here, you will go to the website, and a lot of the games are on the website, games from the first book. And, you know, this is a place where I've been collecting games like this for probably more than 10, 15, 20, maybe almost 20 years of doing that. So that'll take you right to the online recipe book if you want to go there. Let's see. One more thing I want to show you. I'm going to have to go back. Zsolt, you still with me? So
I am, yes. I'm looking for the link to the Gamestorming site, but I found it. It was a bit tricky. I had to zoom in.
I have a new another screen that I want to share for a second.
Yeah, bring it up,
let me see if I can do that. You don't have to leave where you're at if you're on the Mural board, but another screen, which is just to show you what you can do on in Mural. This is a group of people that this is my School of the Possible. We get in there and we do 6-week sprints on people's creative project. So this is you don't have to just use a Mural board for one meeting. Is my point. You might actually use it for multiple meetings, multiple sessions. And what's nice about this is we do these 6-week sprints. And so session 1, we did this Project Pixel thing, very similar to what we just did. We mapped all of our projects on a big, giant board. This is us originally mapping all the Project Pixels. And then we, on a giant board, we worked on our projects. People were working on stuff and sharing it. And so week 2, week 3, week 4, and we had an exhibition, which was kind of an unconference where we had a session where everybody was kind of sharing their findings for their projects. So I just wanted to show you that just as a way to get you thinking about how you might use these virtual whiteboards, which I think are just incredibly powerful in your work. So now I'm going to go back and put the Gamestorming one back on.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, in the chat, Dave, there's a bit of discussion around Mural in terms of how, yeah, it being a bit chaotic, but also fun. And
yeah, it is. That's exactly right. It's chaotic and it's also fun. And I like that about it. So I want to open the door to any questions for people who have anything that they want to do or talk about related to Gamestorming. There are a couple of templates in here that I use when I'm designing a meeting. This one's called the 7 Ps, and basically it's something you can drop sticky notes onto and use it to think with. The 7 Ps is a sort of a structured way to think about meetings. Who are the people that you want? What's the process that you want to follow? How are you going to open the meeting? What are the things you want to explore? How are you going to close it? So opening was the Project Pixels thing in this case. Exploring was the time zones and the clustering, and closing was the feedback. The product, if you have a product that you want to get out of the meeting, that's always useful to know in advance. Pitfalls, practical concerns, purpose of the meeting. There's another one here called the game boarding template, which is just a similar a way to think about a meeting, where you can use sticky notes to think about the games and how you want to string them together. Which is what I just did. I got some links in here. This is the link to tomorrow's session. I've got another one tomorrow for visual thinking. This is a link if you want to join the School of Possible. You can buy the book. You can go to the Gamestorming website, and this is the link if you'd like that video that we kicked off with the bad word in it. So now I'd like to open up for questions, and Zsolt, we can start, if you don't mind being kind of my question collector.
I'm happy to do that. I also opened up the stage, so if anyone wants to join us on the stage, you can.
Oh, cool!
Click
maybe
request to join, and then you can join us up here, and we can have
absolutely
a live conversation instead of fiddling with text, but also happy to. So can you please share some context and background about Gamestorming, is the question from Ahmed.
Yeah. So I started a company back in 1993. That's how old I am. And the company was a visual thinking company. It was a design consultancy. And what we did was we drew pictures to explain internal company stuff or products and services. We did visual explanations. It's cool now to do that, but it was kind of early days when we were doing that. And what I noticed was I was an information graphics guy working for newspapers before I started doing it as a business. And what I learned when we started going into large organizations and starting to try to draw stuff is knowledge about products and services and processes in an organization is not typically held in one person's brain. It's distributed. So I remember one time, for example, I asked the director of a hospital, who can I talk to that understands the patient experience end to end? And the answer was, the only person is the patient. There's no one in the hospital. There's no one in the actual organization who understands the whole system. And so in order to draw the pictures that we needed to draw, we actually had to collect the people and get them in a room and talk to them in order to draw the picture. And Gamestorming is a set of techniques that developed out of that need to get people in a room who have a lot of, collectively they know a lot, individually they know a little, but collectively they know a lot. And how do you get that stuff? How do you make that invisible knowledge visible, and how do you start to synthesize it until you can draw up to a point where you can draw a picture? So that's where it came from. And it was something that was collected. It wasn't something that we invented. It was kind of like, I describe it like a Brothers Grimm project. The Brothers Grimm, they went all around Bavaria and all the little German states collecting folk tales from wherever they could find them. And a lot of them overlapped, and some of them were similar, and some were very different. So Gamestorming is kind of a collection of folk, not folk tales, but folk activities, folk exercises that we have over many years. Myself and a whole bunch of other people have been collecting and trying to catalog and source. Just like fairy tales and folk stories, it's you don't always know where things actually came from, where the source is. So sometimes they say source unknown, but you'll find if you go through that website or if you go through the book that we try and source stuff. Like if I might if I want to write, I might write up the time zone game at some point, and I'll take credit for that unless somebody else did it first. The Project Pixels game might be something to write up. So they take a common format. This is interesting. Everyone can edit everyone's notes. Oh my God! Everyone can edit everyone's notes. Yeah. Is that a good answer? Or you need more? Any other questions?
Yeah. So there's a comment here. I have some students with ADHD who have difficulty with all the cursors, but if you hover over your profile pic at the bottom, you can uncheck show cursors.
Yeah,
okay,
thanks,
so that's
Noreen.
more of a
practical. Yeah, Noreen is actually in the School to Possible in that Project Kairos that I showed you, and I think there's a few other people from there who joined. Yeah, if you don't, I actually like seeing all the cursors, but yeah, I mean, I think there are. It's like people were saying with the confetti earlier. A lot of these tools do have. I would say there's one thing I've noticed when you move from being in your first talk, Zsolt, when you were talking about linear thinking, 1D thinking. When you first move from 1D to 2D to 3D to 4D or whatever however you called those things, it can be very overwhelming when you try to put your ideas down and you're now having more than one linear dimension to think in. I mean, most people are used to thinking in lists. Most people are comfortable making a grocery list or a to-do list, or writing emails or maybe a blog post here and there, or posting a single image on Instagram or TikTok, Facebook. When you start getting into these kind of 3D spaces where you can move things around, you can edit things, you can start to cluster and arrange them, you're definitely entering into territory of, where you got both a lot more potential and a lot more potential for chaos. And I think there's maybe a reason why a lot of people, don't step outside the to-do list, the grocery list, the linear sequencing of things, because it can be very easily overwhelming. And I know when, even watching people do and I've watched you do this, Zsolt, and we watched Nicole do this earlier, this, getting into Obsidian and linking and copying and pasting. I mean, some of that stuff I get overwhelmed by. I'm intimidated by Obsidian. It doesn't look simple to me. It looks really complex and difficult to me. So I understand how people feel. And maybe it's just a matter of, it's a matter of what are you comfortable with and where do you want to go? So I would say if you look at Gamestorming and you think, wow, no way, I don't ever want to do that. That's cool. At least you've been exposed to it, and at least you have now seen what might be possible.
Yeah. And I think in terms of this whole spatial visual space, if you will, that we are conditioned against it. So this is something I harp about regularly, that when we are kids, we start with crayons. And then you enter school and crayons become art class. That's maybe once a week. And all the other classes are text-based. And then you spend 12, 15, 17 years in school following the same method. So I think it's a question of nurture versus nature. And I think innately we are visual by nature, but we are nurtured into this straitjacket of text. And then finding back your visual self is, yeah, a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, and I would say it's a little bit like learning to swim or learning any kind of activity. Some people learn well by being thrown into the deep end. Some people like to start at the shallow end and work their way toward the deep end. Um, I I I will admit that I'm kind of throwing you a little bit into the deep end here and dropping you directly into it. Um, but there's actually a lot more structure here than you might be aware of to this board and to the thinking behind it, and kind of like what I was doing. So just to give you a sense, I wanted to make sure that nobody had problems with these buttons. I've had it. That's because I've done this enough, and I've noticed that people are trying to do the other things. I wanted to make sure that people knew that they could click this button. It doesn't even look like a button. I'm the one who put that little hand in there pointing at it. I wanted to make sure that we had three basic stages. So we go, I put them in sequence with each other, 1, 2, 3. For the feedback, I wanted to go kind of below and away from the main area. This is like at the opening, the exploring, and this is the closing down here. I have some takeaways with little double click fingers on them, so you can, I want to indicate and make clear that people can actually click on these things and go places. So I put these little kind of pointer hands on there. This is not linkable. I could have made this a link where you could actually go and explore that, but I don't necessarily want it. But it's a kind of a private space, and I don't necessarily want people dropping a lot of sticky notes in there. So you can't click on that. You can't go there. And that's because I don't want people to go there. I just want to let them know that it exists. And then there's a bunch of stuff over here that is more about how I think of this. And we've got, when you think about business meetings, there's a spectrum between boredom and chaos. And I'd say we're a little bit over on this end, but Gamestorming gives you a way to be a kind of like bridge that gap in whatever way you want. You can probably move this.
By the way, there's a question that I think slightly related to this from Robert Berger. So
sure,
I assume you also did do some consulting work for bigger companies. How much pushback did you face there due to the rather playful style? And was there a certain point in time when that changed significantly?
Well, so a couple things. That's not a one answer question. That's a multiple answer because every single company is different. I did not go into Shell or British Petroleum or with the same attitude that I'm going into this with you all today. This week is like a party. I'm treating it like a party, and when I walk into a company, every company has its own culture, its own vibe, and you have to be thoughtful about how you introduce new ideas. But an advantage that I did have, and our team did have, was that nobody had a lot of experience hiring a visual thinking company before. So when we were walking in, we really could tell them how it worked because they were buying something from us that they didn't have a lot of experience buying before. So it was going to be a new experience no matter what it was. And they were hiring us because they wanted a new experience. They wanted something different. So to some degree, that's an advantage. I would say that we did encourage our champions inside the companies to introduce us as consultants as opposed to graphic designers. We didn't really want to be in the ad agency category. We wanted to be in the consultative thinking category. And we didn't want to be, we wanted to be focused on the real business aspect of things as opposed to the marketing side of things. So a lot of the stuff that we did was internal. But I think, I mean, it's a judgment call. It really, you know, if you want to start at this boredom, between this boredom spectrum and this chaos of creativity, there's somewhere, you know, along this line that you're going to want to, you know, a more conservative company, you might be over on this side, you know, where you might be saying, you might not even use the word games. You might say, okay, we're going to do an exercise. We're going to do some exercises, you know. We, you know, I think a lot of it, oh, sorry, I spelled exercise wrong, but I think a lot of it also has to do with, you can set up a room in such a way that, you know, you take the, if it's possible, you take the tables out and you don't give you don't make any place where anyone can plug in their laptop and do their typical meeting thing. So as soon as they come into the room, they see that something is different. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's got to be a judgment call.
Yeah. There's another question here. Yeah. So, do you have any experience using these games in a hybrid environment? What tips do you have for managing online and in-person participants? This is from Susan Elliott.
Yeah. Hi, Susan. That's a really tough one. I basically do everything I can to avoid that if I can. I think the nature of a hybrid meeting, it prioritizes the people who are in the room and deprioritizes and decenters the people who are out of the room. So it's really not fair to the people who are coming remotely. So what I try and do, if I have an opportunity, if you can't get everyone in the same room, even if some of the people are in the same building and location, I just say, hey, just, you know, work from home this day or work from your cubicle or your office. We're all going to do this online. And I can share some of the reasons that I think online meetings are better. But I have done it, you know, if I can't get everyone in the same room, I'll do it online. And I think there are a lot of advantages to doing it online. And even if everybody's in the same building, I think there are still some advantages to doing it online. One of the reasons being, let's say you do it in a room. You have a little bit of a problem in a room where you have got to, once you're done with the meeting, you got to take pictures of all the sticky notes, or you got to write them down and put them on a spreadsheet, something like that. Hey, Zsolt, can you cover me for a second? I just had a package arrive and I'm alone in the house, and we live in this bad neighborhood where package thieves abound.
Yeah.
I'll be back. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
All right, good. So in the meantime, I want to remind everyone that there is a button, or should be a button in the top right to join the stage. So if you want to join the stage and ask or join the discussion here on the stage, I think that would be fantastic. But we also have a couple of questions in the Q&A, so you can continue asking questions there. I'm going to put them to Dave. Yeah, and maybe just in the meanwhile, as we were waiting, so I was reflecting on this idea of how might I do this in our own company. I was just starting to say, so this is super interesting what you're saying, because the way I've been using virtual whiteboards is with a smaller team of, let's say, 5-10 people. You can have the virtual whiteboard presented, and people can join in the same way, and then you see it on screen and you're talking in the room and you have the virtual experience. So I would think that with a relatively small team, it works. Of course, with 100 people, yes, everyone should be in their cubicle. But so what's your experience there?
I'm back. Were you asking me?
Yes, I mean, indeed. So because you said that you send people to their cubicles and you say, please join from there. But in my experience, if I have a smaller team, then I can ask everyone to join the the whiteboard and they can type, and we can have this mixed experience. It's not hybrid in the sense that some people are online and others are in the room, but it's hybrid in the sense that the whiteboard is digital. What's your experience on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to. I mean, I think COVID changed a lot of things, and people got used to working from home and on their computers, and I think most people now have a setup where they can work remotely, which is great. I think it's always nice to get people in a room if you can, but I don't think it's a requirement anymore. I think the world has kind of changed in that way, and it just gives us a lot more possibility and potential. When we were doing this, it was almost impossible to do this virtually. I mean, the tools and the technology were just not there. We started doing this in 1993, but we had this philosophy that we didn't want to be carrying a lot of special tools around. So we wanted to be able to do something wherever we went in any company. We wanted to be able to use things that they probably already had in their office supply cabinet or could easily get. And that would be sticky notes, index cards, paper from a copier, flip charts, whiteboards, markers, and basically everything in the Gamestorming book. Nothing in there requires anything other than those basic things. And the nice thing about doing online meetings, though, is you can do a lot more. Let's say you're doing strategic planning. If you're getting everybody in the same room, you're going to have to fly people in. You're going to like expensive jets and hotels. You got to rent a room, probably an offsite room. You got to try and get everything done in 2 days. And like the last strategic planning exercise I did, we took a whole week. We did 5 90-minute sessions, broke it down, and people had time to think in between all the activities. So they have an activity where we're kind of like putting all the phases and projects and ideas and big long-term planning on the board. People could go home. They could have the night to sleep on it. They might have a little homework. They come back with some new thoughts. And so what used to happen in, like, let's say a really intense 2-day session that was very tiring and didn't really give people time to think, spreading it out over a week, I think, and we did it all remotely. We got a much better result. Much more, we didn't have the impact on everybody's personal lives that it would have to fly them into one location. And we got better thinking, I think, out of the group because of that.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's a question here from Daniel Baradas. But if in full online, isn't there a real possibility of participants not paying attention, not participating? Notification from laptops, phones, kids, etc., all calling for attention.
Yeah, I mean, I think even in the real world, you have that problem. People walking in and out of the room, people picking up their phones. I think it's a function of. I think that's an indication that you're doing something that people don't care about and are not invested in, and maybe you should think about what is the purpose of the meeting, whether you should even be having a meeting at all. If people don't really feel like they want to be there, why are you having a meeting? I mean, it's an indication to me. Like, I'm sure there might be people who are here today who are just kind of, maybe they've got it turned on, they're listening to it, they're checking their email, they're listening to it with half their brain. That's okay with me. That they're going to get out of it what what they put into it. So I don't know. I know there's a lot of things, business meetings that are full of hostages, and I don't believe in taking hostages into my meetings. I believe that it's my job to make the meeting interesting and engaging, and it's their decision whether they want to participate with how much of their brain they want to participate with. So that's just my personal philosophy on that.
I love that. I also have a visual in mind that I'm going to do right after.
Oh yeah,
the meeting full of hostages. That I think that's That's such a nice way to put it, and it resonates so deeply. There are some other questions here as well, a bit of a
Okay, I'm
different.
gonna stop sharing and just come back to the main space here. Or maybe I'll keep the sharing on just for a second in case you want to refer to something.
So the next question here on the list is, how might Gamestorming be used in AP Physics, Math, Robotics courses?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's from Mary Simon.
Well, Mary, I think you could use it in a lot of ways, but I probably don't know enough about math, physics, or robotics to give you a really good, thoughtful response on that. But I do invite you to follow up with me. My LinkedIn is on the on my profile here at the Sketch Your Mind conference. So if you want to connect with me, I think I might have. I'm at Dave Cray. That's Twitter, X. You should be able to find me, and I would invite you to follow up with me, and we can talk about it. I will say it can be really powerful when you use Gamestorming in teaching environments. I have a friend who taught a history class, and at the very beginning of the semester, in his classroom, he put a giant wall up of butcher paper, and like the whole wall. And he said, and it was blank. And all he had on it was the dates of, from the history of the world, basically, from, before 0 to today. And he said he asked the students to take sticky notes and put everything they knew about history on the board, so he didn't have to teach it. So in other words, everything you know or think you know about the history of the world, put it up there. And so immediately you see what people know, what they think they know, what they have wrong, what they're guessing about, and the big gaps on the wall where they had no knowledge. And over the course of the semester, they put the stuff where it belonged. They organized it. They filled in the gaps. And by the end of the year, they had this really great map of all the history of the world and all the things that they had learned over the course of the year. So that's a great example of how I think Gamestorming can play in a teaching environment. How it would work with physics, math, robotics, I think it would depend a lot on how you wanted to teach the course or what your philosophy was of how you were going to take people through a curriculum. But I do believe there's a ton of ways that you could do that. If you have questions, by the way, about any of these pictures, I'm happy. This is a presentation I've given before. I just dropped it in there in case you wanted to see it. I mean, I believe everything starts with energy. That's why I started to ask people to put projects that they're excited about, because those are things that people have energy. If that energy is completely unleashed, it's total chaos, but energy tends to follow the path of least resistance. So if you can create a structure like a streets or like irrigation, then the energy has a place where it can flow. And that's what and different kinds of structures are going to give you different kind of results. So depending on what you want to achieve, you might try different kind of structures. So if you want new ideas, you're going to structure a meeting in one way. If you want agreement, you might do it another way. Tough decisions, problem solving, planning. Depending on the result that you want, you're going to have different kinds of structures that you might want to apply.
Yeah.
There's
I think a slightly related question here. So this is from Chris Norris. So he says that there seems to be a sequence of happening of generate, then utilize one or more structures to map, and then find or create patterns. So in terms of
I mean, this is how I think of it. I think of it that you have, I think of any event or meeting like this as a 3-part, like a play with 3 acts in it. There's an opening stage where you get the initial thoughts and ideas onto the board. Let me summon everybody. There's an initial beginning where you're getting people's thoughts into the space. There's some kind of exploring activity where you see what's emergent, like, who's in the same time zone? What projects are similar? And then there's a closing where you converge if you're working on projects. In my case, the closing was simply just giving people a place to put feedback in. But that's where, if you're in a group, you are coming to conclusions, you're making decisions. If let's say we had to pick one of the projects, that might be another, we might have had a whole activity around, taking all these projects and saying, okay, which one are we going to do? If this was, let's say, a group. So there's always some kind of, people need to enter the space. And it's just like in a movie or a play or any kind of story, you need to orient people to what's going on, get the pieces, get the players on the board, get the action going. Then you have the exploration where, you develop the story and the characters, and then you have a conclusion, a climax and a conclusion. So I think of it always in the same way, that you're opening a space. You have some kind of navigation of experimentation and looking at things and navigating through that space, and then you close the space. It's no different really than a game of Monopoly or anything like that, and I compare Gamestorming to board games in a lot of ways. You have pieces, you have objects, you have a space, a board that you're moving things around in. You have some kind of rules, some kind of way to introduce chance into the equation, and the same thing is true with Gamestorming. You're just using a whiteboard, sticky note, index cards, in a structured way to get to a similar kind of result. This might be thoughtful or something to think about. Typically, business process is designed to be repeatable and get you the same result every time. The difference between a game and a process is a game has a structure, but it's designed, it never plays out the same way twice. Every time you play Monopoly, you have the whole purpose of playing it is you have different winners and different kinds of outcomes every time. So that's the difference between a game and a process. And so processes are really good when you want consistent, repeatable results, and a game is really good when you're doing creative work. So that was a great insight.
Awesome.
Never said that. I think these are the kind of pieces I think of when I'm designing a Gamestorming event or a workshop like this. And the goal was simply have some fun and play around and introduce people to this idea of Gamestorming as a toolkit in a really playful and fun way. So that hopefully I achieved that goal.
I think you absolutely did. We still have a couple of questions and a couple of minutes. Let's try to look at them. So Ivo has a question here. How would you use this process to help creative teams curate their ideas before production?
Help creative. Yeah, there's a game, and I can probably find it and link it and drop it in the chat. There's a game that I like called Impact Effort Matrix. And I can drop it in the chat here. But it's a nice way to take a set of ideas, and let's see, here's the chat. I just dropped it in there. The Impact Effort Matrix is a nice game for, you've got a bunch of stuff, you're trying to prioritize, you're trying to decide what you want to do. And you map it along two axes. One is the amount of impact that you're going to get from doing this project, and the other one is how easy or hard, how many hours, how much money does it cost to get it done. And it's a good exercise for a team that's got a lot of possibilities, and they need to prioritize. And what you want the things that are high impact and low effort. And man, those are easy. You do them first. They're not hard to do. They get you a lot of impact. The things that are high impact and high effort, you might want to do them. You might want to think about them. You might want to really be thoughtful about how you put energy towards those. The things that are low impact, you might not decide not to do them at all, because whether they're high effort or low effort, doesn't matter, because they're not getting you the result that you want.
Tomas Flores has a question here. How did you start your visual thinking consultancy company, what were your MVP's first services?
Say that again.
So how did you start your visual thinking consultancy company? What were your first MVPs as minimum viable products and first services?
Wow. Oh, that's taken me back a lot of years. I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and without selling anything. That's the short answer. I had okay, Innovation Games is no longer. That's sad. Oh, what a shame. That was a really cool website. Sorry, it's a spam site now. Thanks for sharing that, Frank. How you get started? I mean, there's a woman named Sarasvathy who wrote a book or did a lot of work on something called effectuation. And whether it's visual consultancy or any kind of business offering, I would recommend having a look at her work on effectuation. And basically, what successful entrepreneurs do typically is they start with what they know and who they know, and they start having conversations. If I were to do this, would you buy it? What would that be worth? And I mean, the only way to figure that stuff out, I think, is to talk to people who are likely to be your customers and get them to participate in helping you design whatever the service might be. I don't know if that's probably not a very helpful answer, but it's going to be different. What worked for me in 1993 is definitely not going to work for you in 2025. So you're going to have to start from where people are at today and what the problems are that they have and what kind of abilities that you have to meet their needs. The world is full of problems, and it doesn't really help to start with a solution and then go looking for a problem. You've got to really have spend some time getting a deep understanding of the kind of problems that you might be able to solve with visual thinking, and that's just a matter of having, conversations with people who have money and who have problems and money.
Yeah, that's a good combination to me. There's a practical question here in terms of what level of Mural subscription are you using to host us today?
I don't know. I don't think it's
that's from Chris. Yeah.
I don't think it's super expensive. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. But I can, maybe while we're talking, I can look under my account and let you know. But
yeah, I mean, it cannot be super expensive because the high end of this is not $18 per month.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so I mean, it's not cost prohibitive in any way, and when you start getting multiple people on an account, you might have stuff that you need to think about. But I just have a personal account, and that's why I ask people to join as visitors, because if you become a member of, even if you have a Mural account, if you go and join it, it screws it up for me.
Yeah.
Like I had, so if Mural has a strange glitch in its account management system that if you like, I don't think people can anyway.
Yeah, there's an interesting question. Sorry, just also mindful of time, and so this is from Anonymous. So, can Gamestorming be used for community building? If so, which games would you recommend?
Oh, absolutely. Again, that's something I'd maybe invite you to follow up with a one-on-one conversation. What we did today, I will say that the power of it is I would always start by getting, the energy, figuring out what people have, finding the energy, right? Everything starts with energy. So if you're community building, what is the energy that people already have for community building? Because you don't want to be shoving, again, you don't want to be, forcing people to do things that they don't want to do. You want to be working with the natural energy that people already have. So if people already have energy for community building, you want to find out what that is. One way to do it might be just to invite them into a space, or make a bulletin board, or create a space where people can say, what do they want to see in their community, or what do they want more of? What do they want less of? And finding a space where people can actually put their thoughts up there. If people don't care about something, they're not going to put energy into it. So you got to, for me, you got to start with where the energy is. Here's my little thing about things that ignite energy: curiosity, music, playing with kids, deadlines, coffee, looking out the window. You want to figure out where the creative energy is, and then you want to try and think about putting some structure around that based on the result that you want to get. So for me, that's where you start. You know, like for me, my wife and I are doing community building in our neighborhood. We found a group that meets up in the park every Friday, and we go to that meeting, and we got to know people, and we started to see what they care about. And then we started putting those thoughts together in like a Google Doc. So, I mean, and now we got multiple people sharing the Google Doc. Gamestorming is one way to do that. But you might find that there are other ways.
So I think we are coming up to the top of the hour and the end of our time. I guess we could have time for one more question.
I will share one thing that I wanted to share. There's a game that I really like, and I use it a lot. It's called the Empathy Map. And there's a canvas for this in the book and on the website. It's a way to get it's a structured way to get an understanding of a customer. This particular one wasn't actually Warren Buffett. It was an imagined imagined investor, but Warren Buffett was the person that we used to kind of focus the attention, because it was a company that they wanted to get investors. So, but this is a really powerful tool. It starts with do we want to understand? What is it that we want that they need to do, or we want to get them to do? And then we start asking, what are they seeing in the world? What do we hear them saying? What are they doing? What do they hear? And then we start from that. It's like you walk a mile in their shoes, and then you start to really understand and try to get a sense of what they think and feel, the pains that they're trying to resolve, what the problems are, the gains. This might be a good place for whoever was the person who was asking about starting a design consultancy or a visual thinking consultancy.
Yeah, that was Tomasz. Yeah.
Yeah, Tomasz. This would be a great tool to start with. And almost always this is a game an exercise that I bring in almost every time I'm working with a group or trying to work with a team. It's really powerful. I use it all the time. And if you're just starting out and you're trying to figure out who your customer is, or you're really trying to understand a customer or anyone that you're working with, it's a powerful tool. And that'd be the last one that I would share probably today.
Awesome, Dave.
Yeah.
This was real fun. And yeah, happy to had you here. And to remind everyone, and I can see people are already leaving. I mean, it's the end of the session. Tomorrow we have another session with you on visual frameworks. So yeah, I guess we can also maybe link back to questions if at the end we run out. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. Thanks everyone for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely. Yeah. I created my own big board of ideas. I got confused sometimes between Mural and my own board. I didn't know which one I'm looking at, but anyway, I managed it. So good fun.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
intelligent map to shake off the silence and close the gap. No more wasting time on assumptions we know. It's time for the rules to make the whole thing flow. From sketches to stickies, the vision is drawn. A playbook for insight from dusk until dawn. Yeah, the only way to win is to dive right in. It's Gamestorming 2.0. Baby, let the session begin. It's playful visual frameworks to navigate uncertainty and align faster. Gamestorming 2.0. Break out the stickies and see what matters. We're talking divergence, we're talking tight constraint. A safe space for serious work where the mood ain't quaint. Use your visual language. You don't need to be an artist, just see the invisible and become the smartest. We go from the open to the explore so wide, then close it down hard with nothing left to hide. Dave Gray taught us how to play this design game, taking the complex and calling it out by name. A toolkit refined, better than before, democratizing genius and kicking down the door. Yeah, the only way to win is to dive right in. It's Gamestorming 2.0. Baby, let the session begin. It's playful visual frameworks to navigate uncertainty and align faster. Gamestorming 2.0. Break out the stickies and see what matters.